Use your brain chemicals. There are drugs that you can use to motivate yourself with, and I'm not talking about amphetamine or crack, a deadly form of child's play. Instead, you can get into those energizing chemicals in your system that gets activated when you laugh, or sing, or dance, or run, or hug someone. When you're having fun, your body chemistry changes and you get new biochemical surges of motivation and energy. And there isn't anything you do that can't be transformed into something interesting and uplifting. Viktor Frankl has written startling accounts of his life in the Nazi concentration camps, and how some prisoners created new universes unto themselves inside their own minds. It might sound absurd, but truly imaginative people can access their inner chemical creativity in the loneliness of a prison cell. Don't keep trying to go outside yourself searching for something that's fun. It's not out there anywhere. It's inside. The opportunity for fun is in your own energy system, your synergy of heart and mind. That's where you'll find it. Pro Football Hall of Famer Fran Tarkenton recommends looking at any task you do as fun. If it's not fun, he says, you're not doing it right. People who get high on marijuana often find they can laugh at anything. The problem with them is that they think this kind of fun is inherent in marijuana. It's not. The capacity for fun was already there inside of them. The marijuana just artificially opened them up to it. But the physical and psychological price paid for such a drugged opening is not worth the high. I wish I didn't know this firsthand, but I do. The price drug users pay is this: their self-esteem suffers because they didn't create the fun they had, they thought the drugs did it for them. So they keep shrinking, the more they use, into greater paranoia and self-disgust. Soon they're using the drug just to feel normal. William Burroughs, a former drug addict and author of Naked Lunch, discovered something that was very interesting and bitterly amusing to him after finally recovering from his addictions. There isn't any feeling you can get on drugs, he said, that you can't get without drugs. Make a commitment to yourself to find the natural highs you need to stay motivated. Start by finding out what it does to your mood and energy to laugh, to sing, to dance, to walk, to run, to hug someone, or to get something done. Then support your experiments by telling yourself that you're not interested in doing anything that isn't fun. If you can't immediately see the fun in something, find a way to create it. Once you have made a task fun, you have solved the problem of self-motivation. Leave high school forever. Most of us feel like we've been left stranded in high school forever. Like something happened there that we've never shaken off. Before high school, in our earlier and more carefree childhoods, we were creative dreamers filled with a boundless sense of energy and wonder. But in high school, something got turned around. For the first time in our lives, we began fearing what other people were thinking of us. All of a sudden our mission in life became not to be embarrassed. We were afraid to look bad, and so we made it a point not to take risks. I'll never forget something that happened to my friend, Richard Schwartz, in high school. He is now a respected photographer, and I won't need to ask his permission to tell this story about him. Richard and I were walking home from school one day, and all of a sudden he stopped in his tracks, his face frozen with horror. I looked at him and asked what was wrong. I thought he was about to suffer some kind of seizure. He then pointed down at his pants and wordlessly showed me where his belt had missed a loop. I spent the whole day like this, he finally said. It was impossible for him to measure what everybody thought of him as they passed him in the halls, perhaps seeing the belt had missed a loop. The damage to his reputation was probably beyond repair. That was high school. Today, when I give my seminars on motivation, I love the periods when I take questions from the audience. But many times I can see the painfully adolescent looks of self-consciousness on people's faces when they ponder the risk of asking a question in front of the group. This habit of worrying more about what others think of our thoughts than we do about our own thinking usually begins in high school, but it can last a lifetime. It is time to be aware of what we're doing and, once again, leave high school. It's time to reach back to those pre-high school days of innocent creativity and social fearlessness, and draw on that former self. By the way, I finally came up with a way to deal with the moments of silence that fill a seminar room when I ask for questions. I go to the board and make 5 circles. Then I tell the audience that I used to say in my classes, if there are no questions at this point, we'll take a break. People always want to take a break, so there wasn't much incentive for asking questions. But questions are the most fun part of a seminar for me, so I came up with this game: after 5 questions, we take a break. Now I find people in the audience urging people around them to join in asking questions so we can take our break sooner. Although it's an amusing artificial way to jumpstart the dialogue I'm looking for, what it really does is take the pressure off. It takes the participants out of high school. Most people don't realize how easily they can create the social fearlessness they want to have. Instead, they live like they are still teenagers, reacting to the imagined judgments of other people. They end up designing their lives based on what other people might be thinking about them. A life designed by a teenager. Would you want one? But you can leave that mindset behind. You can motivate yourself by yourself, without depending on the opinions of others. All it takes is a simple question. As Emerson asked, why should the way I feel depend on the thoughts in someone else's head? Learn to lose your cool. You can create a self that doesn't care that much about what people think. You can motivate yourself by leaving the painful self-consciousness of high school behind. Because our tendency is to go so far in the timid, non-assertive direction, it might be a profitable overcorrection to adopt these internal commands: look bad. Take a risk. Lose face. Be yourself. Share yourself with someone. Open up. Be vulnerable. Be human. Leave your comfort zone. Get honest. Experience the fear. Do it anyway. Show me a guy who's afraid to look bad, said actor René Auberjonois, and I'll show you a guy you can beat every time. The first time that I ever spoke to author and psychotherapist Devers Brandon, it was over the telephone, and she agreed to work with me on building my own self-confidence and personal growth. It wasn't long into the phone conversation before she asked me about my voice. I am very interested in your voice, she said, with a tone of curiosity. Hoping she might be ready to give me a compliment, I asked her to explain. Well, she said. It's so lifeless. A real monotone. I wonder why that is. Embarrassed, I had no explanation. This conversation took place long before I had become a professional speaker, and it was also long before I ever took any acting lessons. It was long before I learned to sing in my car, too. Yet I was completely unaware and very surprised that it seemed to her that I was coming across with a voice like someone out of Night of the Living Dead. The truth was that during that period in my life, I was living scared. Things weren't going well for me financially, I had serious health problems in my family, and I had that mildly suicidal feeling that accompanies an increasing sense of powerlessness over one's problems. I now think one way a lot of men hide their fears is by assuming a macho kind of dull indifference. I know now that's what I had done. That a psychotherapist could hear it immediately in my voice was unnerving, though. Trying to understand why I covered fear with indifference, I remembered that back in my high school the cool guys were always the least enthusiastic guys. They spoke in monotones, emulating their heroes James Dean and Marlon Brando. Brando was the coolest of all. He was so indifferent and unenthusiastic you couldn't even understand him when he spoke. One of the first homework assignments Devers Brandon gave me was to rent the video Gone with the Wind and study how fearlessly Clark Gable revealed his female side. This sounded weird to me. Gable a female? I knew Gable was always considered a true man's man in all those old movies, so I couldn't understand what Devers was talking about, or how it would help me. But when I watched the movie, it became strangely clear. Clark Gable allowed himself such a huge emotional range of expression, that I could actually identify scenes where he was revealing a distinctly female side to his character's personality. Did it make him less manly? No. Curiously, it made him more real, and more compelling. From that time on, I lost my desire to hide behind an indifferent, monotonous person. I committed myself to get on the road to creating a self that included a wider range of expression, without a nervous preoccupation with coming off like a man's man. I also started noticing how much we seem to love vulnerability in others but don't trust it in ourselves. But we can learn to trust it. Just a little at first. Then we can build that vulnerability until we're not afraid to open up into an ever-widening spectrum of self-revelation. By losing face, we connect to the real excitement of life. And what if I don't always come off as an indifferent man's man? Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Kill your television. My brother used to own a t-shirt store, and one of the most popular shirts for sale said, "Kill your television." I bought that t-shirt with the picture of a TV being blown up. It still makes people nervous to look at it when I wear it today. You can actually change your life by turning off your television. Maybe just one evening a week to start with. What would happen if you stopped trying to find life in other people's shows and let your own life become the show you got hooked on? Cutting down on television is sometimes terrifying to electronically addicted, but don't be afraid. You can detox slowly. If you're watching too much television and you know it, you might find it useful to ask this one question: which side of the glass do I want to live on? When you are watching television, you are watching other people do what they love doing for a living. Those people are on the smart side of the glass because they are having fun, and you are passively watching them have fun. They are getting money, and you are not. There's nothing wrong with occasionally watching other people do what they love doing. But the average household now does this for 7 hours a day. Are they living on the side of the glass that will advance their lives? Big advertisers hope not. Here's a good test for you to determine if television motivates you more than books do. Try to remember what you watched on television a month ago. Think hard. What effect are those shows having on the inspired side of your brain? Now think about the book that you read a month ago. Or even the e-zine you read last week. Which made a more valuable and lasting impression? Which form of entertainment better leads you in the direction of self-motivation? Today, the growing fascination with going online is an improvement over television, especially if you interact. Communicating inside thoughtful chat rooms and sending and receiving email both grow the brain. Television does the opposite. Groucho Marx once said he found television very educational. Every time someone turns it on, he said, I go in the other room to read a book. Break out of your soul cage. Our society encourages us to seek comfort. Most products and services advertised day and night are designed to make us more comfortable and less challenged. And yet, only challenge causes growth. The only challenge will test our skills and make us better. The only challenge and the self-motivation to engage the challenge will transform us. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to create a more skillful self. So it is up to you.